So LANY have a very unique way of mixing vocals, and I really like it. So I wanted to make a video demonstrating how to mix vocals like in a LANY production, especially, let's for example just throw out a song Dancing in the Kitchen sort of vibes, and we're going to literally go through that, and Malibu Night as well, and we're going to go through the process of how I created the vocal, how it is. I'm going to play you it first so you can hear what the finish like, and I'm going to break down what I've done. Some of these plugins you won't have, which I've used, and some of them you will, but it's just the main premise. Like, you know, I'm using compressors, EQ, stuff that all DAW should have if you've got a DAW, so you can do this as well, but I'm going to show you how I've done it. We're using Logic Pro X today, so we're going to jump straight into the project, and I'm going to show you what I've done with this vocal, this client I've been working with, and how I was able to achieve that LANY mixing vocal sound. So let's jump into Logic right now, and here we go. So I'm just going to quickly play you the track first, so you can hear what it sounds like. It's very much a very LANY influenced track, and it sounds really cool. I'm not going to play too much of it because I don't want to give too much away for the client, but this is what it sounds like. How couldn't I see it? Now you've been there through it all. Now I feel it. You love me. Very beautiful song, and I can't wait for it to be released. Now, this vocal, I'm going to play you how it was before. First thing you can obviously see that he has provided me with a main vocal, and we got some harmonies, which, you know, is very standard. So, like, it's not like there's any thing extraordinary going on with the actual recording of the vocal. The first thing I did was I put it into a summing track in Logic, which it just enables me to mix all the vocals together on the output. So like in more of the sort of like mix down stage, like once all the vocals group together, I can really sculpt them in the way I want them to sit in the mix. But this is the vocals all together, so we're just going to solo the vocals because that's all we want to do. Especially, actually, let's start with the main vocals. So this is what the main vocal sounded like before any sort of processing was put on it. How couldn't I see it? So you can hear, like, there's no sort of really good quality recording. It's a very good recording, I will get. Like, the recording he's given me, like, it was to a very good acceptable standard for mixing vocals. But as you can see, that is what we started with, and now you've heard both sides of it. I'm going to go through what I've done. So I mixed the main vocal first, and there's been a lot of copying and pasting across to the choruses because, you know, that's just like once something works, you can normally make it sound really good with a couple of differences. But I started with the RVox. Now, the RVox is a vocal compressor and noise gate by Waves. I've done so many videos incorporating this and also done a review as well because I love this plugin. It's very good first plugin in a chain because it's a good way to clear unwanted noise using the noise gate and then obviously using the compression. It's very easy to use. It's one of them one knob sort of things, and I turned down the gain a little bit just because the vocal that I got supplied with when I first listened to it, even though I'd had turned down a little bit, that was afterwards, and I just thought it was a little bit hot, the signal, so I turned down a little bit, controlling here straight off the bat. And then I went into another compressor because I do like to compress vocals to really start to bring out the details. Very subtle. We've got a 3:1 ratio on this compressor. And this is just a Logic stock compressor here. So all I've done really is layered two compressors and a noise gate to try and clean up the mix a lot more and enhance everything. Because those of you who watched my videos before, you know I like to bring everything out in the mix and then carve away at it to leave it what I've want. So at this point, I've just done two compressors and noise gate, and then I added in the auto-tune. Now, I really like this combination of the pitch correction by, which is the Logic stock plugin. The key was D major for this song, and I always like to put it around halfway because I feel like it's that right amount of sensitivity where it's going to work, but it's not too noticeable. Now, the client did favor a more auto-tune sounding vocal, so when I applied the Waves tune, even though I've got like the note transition to 1.5, so it's very fast acting to not only the note changing to how the vocalist is singing it, but also like the speed, and then the corrections at 72%, trying to make it sound a little more natural. But again, like this is a little bit more of an aggressive application of autotune because that is what they wanted. They wanted to sort of have that really sort of clean synthetic quality to a vocal, which is very common in pop songs, so we left it in. So the next thing I did was I added two lots of EQs. I do this a lot because I love the Q10 by Waves because you get the 10 different EQs. I've completely forgotten what it's called. Mine's gone dead. Different frequency bands, that's the one. And I like to always just search for the frequencies I don't want and start to cut them out. So I did that with that one. I got rid of a lot of unwanted noise with a low cut filter. And then I added the second EQ, which was just doing this last frequency I found, which was annoying me. So I'm already starting to sculpt away. And it's at this point, it's when I went to bus 3, which is the parallel compression. Now, for those of you who know who parallel compression is, it's basically when you put a compressor, which is very aggressive and cranked all the way up onto a bus, and you feed that into the signal, so you start to get a blend of a very over-compressed vocal with the vocal that you've got, and you meet somewhere in the middle, and that's how you can get a really sort of like vocal to pop out in a mix a lot more. So like the threshold's all the way up, the ratio's all the way up, and the attack is all the way up. And then it's just finding that blend of the two in the middle. You don't want to do a lot. I've only turned it up to minus 19 dB, and then after that is when I incorporated my last EQ just to add a little bit of brightness, because after I listened to parallel compression, that's the only thing I thought was missing. And it's the Renaissance EQ, again ranged by waves. You can see I have a little bit of a bias towards waves plugins. I do like waves plugins, but again Logic stock plugins as well. The compressor on the parallel compression is also a stock plugin of Logic. So up to this point, this is what we got. See that you've been there through it all. You can hear it's not finished yet, but it's because I wanted to bring out a lot of qualities, and I sort of wanted it to be a little bit rough because of the next stage. It doesn't matter too much because I wanted it to be mid-heavy to fit in with what we're going to do with the reverb. So for the reverb, what we've done is we have a 0.74. Now this part is what you need to listen to, because this is the part that really makes that distinct LANY vocal, because it sounds very roomy and boxy. And how you do that is an under 1 second reverb, and you tell I've mixed it in quite a lot with a like no pre-delay at all. I adjust the size. If those using ROM, I always adjust the side to around 30% or below for vocals. Makes it sound a lot better. And then I've also done a slight low cut at the bottom because there's a lot of muddiness in the reverb I didn't want. But when you add this, all of a sudden you notice the difference. See ya. And it's getting there already. That you've been there through it all. See ya. So the next thing I did was add a delay designer. I wanted something like trickling in the background. So again, Logic stock plugin. Just added this in. As you can hear, it's quite like a wet in the mix, and like the feedback's quite long. I quite like that because it meant there was something fluttering in the background constantly and like adding textures to the vocal mix. So that was a really good thing to add. And the last thing I've added, oh, I didn't even use that. Never mind. And then bus 4, I added another reverb, which again, this one's up to 0 because again, I wanted to send the vocal straight into the room, and it is again like it's a 1.56 second reverb this time. I was blending reverbs to try and sort of get it more to the mix how I want. I did a high cut as well because I feel like I didn't want it to be too bright, because again these LANY vocals in the mid, they're quite mid heavy, and I quite like the sound of the decay to really come through. So when you put these together, see that you've been there, it sounds really cool. Now, the last thing that I did, and now this is a really cool effect, and this is what LANY do. So this, if you're going to take it away from this video, it's this next point. So we're going to create a pad using the vocal. Now, what we did was we added another bus send in, and in this bus send, I've got a tape delay. Now, the tape delay is completely a wet signal only going through, so it's only the delay which is coming through into the bus send, and then that delay is going into an 8-second reverb to really elongate out the delays. And the effect you get by doing this with a chorus, because I wanted to put out wide, is you create this really sort of like the human like created pad using the vocal. It sounds really cool. There it is. It stopped because I've paused the vocal, but you can hear it. Now, it can all sound a little bit disjointed to get, by itself, but if you add this to the actual mix, we're just going to mute everything else other than the vocal. You can hear it. Adds to the production. And there you go. Now, the thing I've done it for the most of, like, we've double tracked this vocal, which again adds the effect. So when you put these together, and it makes it sound really cool. Something that makes it sound thicker and a lot more like that, really almost like crowd like LANY vocal. And again, all the harmonies together, there's not a lot going on. It's a lot more of the same settings, just with the application of a chorus to push some of the vocals out wide. And the result's really cool. We're not finished here, because the thing that we need to do, because there's a lot of vocals getting sent directly into reverbs, we need to tidy it up a bit. You can probably listen to that, and if you're listening to good headphones, you will think that like it sounds a little bit mid-heavy, a little bit boxy. So the first thing I did was this is why I did a sum where I stacked everything to all the vocals together, so I could mix them all together. I added another reverb on top. This one was a little bit longer because I wanted to add something to the decay, because when it was playing in the chorus, I felt like it was a little bit too dry. There wasn't enough of a release happening from the vocal. So I added that in, and I used one of my favorite plugins, the Mixcentric. Very good for just adding that little spark, I call it, to a vocal. It's like it's one of them from the One Knob series, or Waves, again, Greg Swells. But I just always found for pop vocals and indie pop, it's just great because it just adds that certain spice, I'll say, to the vocal, and like it's really good. Just a lift in the high end. It's very airy. It's very good. Another free plugin actually, which I've used recently, is not Native Inch, it's Slate's Fresh Air plugin. That's very good, but I used the Mixcentric this time. Then I've got this going into channel EQ, where I've just started to tidy up a little bit, done another low cut just to get rid of any of that low end in the reverb which has come through if I'd forgot to turn them off. And then again, a little bit of a mid cut because there was some sort of there was some frequencies which were sticking out which I didn't like, and I always hate any frequency which is 4K and 2K. Sometimes I feel like they can make a vocal sound really harsh, so I had to cut them out. And then the last thing I've done is a combination of the Vitamin, the dynamic compressor, which it just helped mix the vocal to make it. And I love this plugin. I swear by this plugin. I could happily just mix, if the effects are already on a track, I could happily just mix a whole project using the Vitamin on each channel. It's so good, and it brings so much life to anything you mix it with. And as you see, like, I've done a lot of boosting in the high ends, but like the way this does it, because it's almost acting like a compressor, and I've also done a little bit of a spread, it just makes it just sound so clean. You just have such amazing control over sonically how you want the vocals to turn out, so that's really good. And the last thing I've done is one of my favorite plugins, the F6 Dynamic EQ. Just again, like, I wanted to have a little bit more spark in the high end, but using the threshold means that when it's too much, it does trigger and almost then acts as a de-esser. So I have that all together. You've got this really nice, clean sounding LANY vocal. So yeah, that is how I created a LANY style vocal mix. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm going to quickly play it again so you can hear it back. And yeah, if you enjoyed this video, hit that subscribe button. But yeah, this is the outcome. How couldn't I see? Very cool, really cool. Just gonna put myself back onto full screen to see out this video, and there we go. But yeah, guys, thank you for watching. If you made this far to the end, again, hit that subscribe button. Best way to support the channel. And if you want to see any more mixing tutorials, again, I'll leave a link below where you can check all of them out. But yeah, thank you for watching, guys. Keep making music, and I will see you in the next video.